this isn't just about, again, access to mifepristone or access to abortion. We see these, and I think particularly in the Black community, we see these as connects to all other freedoms that we are seeing. It's no coincidence that the same states where we're seeing extreme abortion bans, we also have the highest maternal mortality rates, particularly for Black women.
You and the vice president are working together, going to Howard University this week. Why? Why now? Because it continues to happen. I mean, is it more of an information campaign? Because the add-ons, as you say, the mifepristone, what is it with you and the vice president this week?
We're delighted to be at a rally tomorrow. Planned Parenthood and NARAL and Emily's List and the ACLU come together to rally for reproductive freedom. And the vice president will be there also giving remarks because, look, it's clear reproductive freedom remains top of mind and it needs to remain front and center because of all the things that we are seeing. This isn't just about, again, access to mifepristone or access to abortion. We see these, and I think particularly in the Black community, we see these as connects to all other freedoms that we are seeing. It's no coincidence that the same states where we're seeing extreme abortion bans, we also have the highest maternal mortality rates, particularly for Black women. It's no coincidence that these same states are also the attacks against gender affirming care, against voting rights, against what we can teach in history in schools. So all of these fights, I think, are fundamentally connected to freedom. And I think that the vice president has done an incredible job traveling across the country during a time of great healthcare crisis, during post-Dobbs, really meeting with legislators, meeting with providers, meeting with patients, meeting with advocates to understand the full picture of what's at stake. And there is no question in my mind that if the administration had not acted so swiftly after the Fifth Circuit appeal to the Supreme Court, we would not be looking at a world right now where mifepristone would be safe without these restrictions right now, be available without all these restrictions. It is safe and it is effective for the FDA. So that's what we'll be doing with the vice president tomorrow, and we're excited to be with her in her home turf. With students, helping them understand what's at stake for their future.
What's at stake, right? And you said, there's not a coincidence. All of these rights issues are happening in this moment. And I think about something that President Biden said just a few hours before the State of the Union address. It seems like every 2 to 5 generations, there's a cycle. And we're seeing that cycle again. It's kind of like this 50-year mark for everything, 50 to 60-year mark for everything, that there's a rollback. I hate to ask this, but in this moment, this is bad, but could it get worse?
We've definitely seen, obviously, egregious attacks, but I also think there's some hope here, April, right? I mean, you don't see a state like Wisconsin show up for a state Supreme Court seat, right? A special election for a state Supreme Court seat without people understanding what is at stake for their freedoms. And I think that is what we're going to continue to see.
And I'm glad you brought up Wisconsin, because that was interesting. That was a very interesting case. Republicans in the assembly said, okay, wait a minute. Let's look at having abortions in the state for rape or incest. And the Republicans in the Senate said no, right? So it's not, even for Republicans, it's not just all or nothing. There's still a back and forth like other America. America has said that there should be, that Roe v. Wade should have stood. And now we're seeing, just in that microcosm of the state of Wisconsin, there are Republicans who do believe in abortion in some instances.
This is a bipartisan issue. This is absolutely a bipartisan issue. You don't get Kansas and Kentucky and Montana voting for freedom without a bipartisan majority coalition. And so, yes, that's also the case in Wisconsin, and we will continue to see it. And what you're seeing on the other side is desperate attempts by the GOP to, in fact, deny opportunities for direct democracy to keep these things off of the ballot so that we're not having those conversations. But the people are smart. People know what people have said. We have the receipts. We got the Wayback Machine. We have all of the ways in which these politicians have kind of said who they are.
Planned Parenthood has always been a target of pro-lifers. Do you see a stepped up attack on your organization and on you by any chance in this moment?
My concern, April, is for the patients. My concern is for the people who are driving upwards of 16 hours one way just to get access to abortion care out of their state. My concern is for the patients who are having to take time off from work, having to get childcare because they're already parents, having to, come up with the resources and the gas money in an economy that is not favorable to their own circumstances. My concern is for them and their safety. My concern is for the fact that they may be more criminalized because they are brown bodies crossing those state lines, going into different communities and being interrogated and stopped by police who have the ability to pull them over, on whatever authority and probing deeper into what they are doing with their personal decisions. So, Planned Parenthood is always under attack. We are used to it, and we will continue to fight back. What I'm concerned about is making sure that the patients who need care get access to that.